Well, what an overwhelming response I've had to that last video. Thanks, guys, for your comments. Now, in relation to the bloke regarding the RS and the Golf, I'm a little bit different. I've mentioned in a previous video, I said to the girls at Subaru, aren't I supposed to be driving however many cars and over however many months and comparing the G's around the corners and whatever. The thing is that I never did that with the first one either. So I have never had a WRX. I've got a flat 6 Liberty manual, which has this gearbox in it without the DCCD. They came with it here. The Spec R, 3 litre R did. And the next transition was a WRX. Now, I didn't know much about the STI. Okay, so basically, I drove a WRX for 5 minutes, got out of it and went and bought the STI after driving that for like 5 minutes because the STI was just my kind of car. Now, in saying that, okay, this 2018 is a great improvement, but I have met people from Subaru who have traded the STI in for a WRX. Now, I mentioned in the previous video, I admire the WRX people for saying, right, I don't have to have the STI. I want fuel economy. I want the low down punch. Here comes the spring. Here comes spring in Sydney. Look at all the fallout on the car. This car was washed yesterday. Absolutely shocking. Okay, so I admire the WRX people, and that WRX is a very capable car. The engine has a lower down punch and on it goes. But to that guy saying, did you drive the RS Focus? No. Did I drive the Golf? No. Now, even the best reviewers choose one of those two cars over this. But if you watch the actual review carefully, and there's good ones out there, it's this car. They get in and they're just smiling the entire time they're doing the review. And they're like, oh, this is this and this is that. But see, those guys, firstly, can be a little bit biased. They can be sort of getting money from the companies and stuff. But not only that, the Ford Focus has more power. It sounds louder. It burbles and crackles. It restarts itself when you stall it. It power oversteers around the track. Now, the one I haven't mentioned is the Civic Type R. I don't think that goes anywhere near this. And that's the point. The Focus and the Golf R and all these cars, it's not that I can confirm they're on-demand four-wheel drives, but they're more like that. So the Golf has a Haldex system, and in a video I mentioned previously in the other car when I made a video, I was a little bit angry saying, where is the Golf R and the STI head-to-head on a gravel road? I don't think Volkswagen even allow the media to even do that, because why haven't I seen that? Be careful when you buy any car, but this car is also, it's a great car, but it's an acquired taste. There's a reason, I don't know how many they sold here, but the forecast was 300 a year in Australia. When I wanted a silver one, they said, there's one silver one coming in December. Now, if you look at how the Subaru production line rolls, there'll be a blue STI, there'll be a white XV. The cars are coming off the production line, one individual car at a time. And they are individual cars. Now, when you buy their other models, they're more sort of mass, sort of mainstream suitable cars. Now, this car is a suitable car for most people, and I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you why it's also not. The driving position in Subarus is just absolutely critical to the design of the car. They do everything to get the driver right in the best position. Now, when they develop the BRZ, there's a video from Subaru Japan. All the best videos are very short and very hard to find. And in that video, they have the chassis, and the Subaru engineers are talking about how they move the engine lower down to get the driver that far back so his hand sits on the gear lever right at the right spot. So anyone can get in an STI or a WRX and drive it. But is it truck-like? Yes, it's truck-like. I mean, I got in the car now and the steering's going... I just did a Lancer power steering rack, and that's what it did when I was filling it up with oil. I mean, the steering is working here. It's heavy. Okay, you get gear train rattle. You have a clutch pickup, which has been an issue. Like, okay, I haven't stalled this car. The other one's easy to stall, but I have stalled it when I bought it, but I haven't stalled it since. But nevertheless, the car has its days. But in saying that, it's a total contradiction, just like Japan is itself, right? When you tune this car, the tune I had, it had the same performance, hot, cold, whatever. Now I'm feeling that the normal car, yesterday, the weather warmed up and I'm getting a little few, little differences in the running and that here and there. Now, so yeah, you can't just do what I did and go and buy it, because I'm a Subaru person, but if you drive it and you just love it, if you drive it and you think, oh my God, I've never driven anything like this, if it's for you, it's for you. But I'm pretty sure the best thing to do is to drive those other few cars, because you're going to know straight away. And finally, why didn't I drive those cars? Why don't I want to drive those cars? And why do I have a literal disrespect for the Golf R and for the Ford Focus? Is because I change intake manifolds, I drive, I service, I repair, and I cry with the customers on the normal models. Now, everyone will tell you the new Audis and Volkswagens drive nicely. Even the most critical reviewers like John Cadogan, who really doesn't like them, they drive nicely. To me, they don't, but they do, okay? Everyone says they drive nicely. All my customers love the way their Volkswagens and Audis drive. People want light steering, stuff like that. Now, if you get in the STI and you hate that Volkswagen, you hate that Audi A3, when you drive that S4 Audi and you can just feel what it does and you don't like it, you're a Subaru person. But if you get in a Golf and you're like, oh, I want to drive this to work every day, this is a really nice place to be, don't buy the Subaru, because this car will tire you out. Like, this car's not a car for sales reps, unless maybe I would be the sales rep. I'd be happy driving around it all day. But it's tiring, okay? I'm not going to go into maintenance costs as such. There are maintenance costs with these cars. The last model pads from Subaru in Australia, the front pads are $400 and something, $60 something plus GST. I can't imagine how much these are. A genuine disc on the previous generation, I mean the one I had, the 2016, for the front is nearly $800 a disc. Okay, you've got the timing belt and all its associated hell that goes with it. So these cars have running costs. These cars have certain reliability issues, but so does everything else. If you look at the video I made about the Renault and its tailgate, I mean, if that's the tailgate, imagine what goes on with the engines. So I've had Ford Focuses here where they have leaks from the VTEC block, Vanos block on top of the cylinder head. Ford Australia don't even list those parts here, but I find the European drawings, and then Ford gets the parts from Germany for me, which are 2 O-rings this big. But when pulling off that block on the Focus, it had been dropped on the factory floor. Dropped and dragged on the factory floor. In fact, it's as if the worker went, vandalised the part. These cars are being made, they're being mass-produced. I know the RS Focus or whatever, the ST or whatever the hell it's called, is made in Germany and whatever, and that's great. But I'll tell you now, that Focus, from the ones I get here, I'll tell you now, they will fall apart, disintegrate under my foot. In 1 year, I'll finish that whole car off. Now, the Golfs are more reliable. The GTI Golf, and I know we're talking about Golfs are, but the GTI Golf was not a bad car. Right, I never really had an issue with it until today, where a customer came in and the intake manifold's gone on one. Okay, but the GTI Golf is gonna be, the Golf R is gonna be your choice over the Focus. The Focus and the Civic are more look at me and the track car and the power oversteer car, or whatever. The Focus may do better than this car. Bear in mind, the Focus has considerably a lot more power than this car. But when I see the EcoBoost engine, and when I see Duratec, and when I see Ford, I just see the most cheapest put together stuff. So I haven't looked at an RS Focus, but I know what its underpinnings are. And that's where the magic of this car lies, is it's in the symmetrical four-wheel drive, okay? And in the symmetry of the car and in the boxer. So, by having a boxer, you're immediately set apart. Like, how can you compare a boxer turbo to a Honda Civic, Golf R, or Ford Focus? How can you compare Subaru's formula when years ago until today, these are the only cars that go forward on one wheel? Okay, the Volkswagen 4Motion and all the other bullshit, they don't do it. If you look online at the US, when the guys in the US put the cars up on slippery slopes and they put grease under three wheels and whatever they do, only the Subaru moves forward. Now, it's not about moving forward on one wheel. It's about the distribution of power, and it's all in the maths. No one truly knows how Subaru do it. And what I'm talking about is how they do this without the electronics. Because Subaru have had this formula without the DCCD, without the electronics. My Liberty, the second the thing slips, the power starts going to the correct area of the car. This just does it ultra fast. So when buying a car, obviously you're not going to listen to me and just buy this car. But if you've had one before, or if you're like the guy I heard about with 8 STIs or whatever, there's no other car for you. Give up. Don't even try. Don't even waste your time. You're going to get in a Golf, you're going to get in a Focus, and you're going to go, huh, 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 like the fat kid in Goonies, right? I get in those cars, I want to throw up. And I will go and drive a Focus for you guys. And I will go, I've driven a Golf R, my uncle's got one. Right, when you open the door on the Golf R, you open the door on the Golf R and it's got this neon strip all the way down. And he said to me, how's your piece of plastic? And I said, how's your brothel? I go, what is this? I go, Volkswagen have no limits in how far they'll go to entice people with their interiors and all their bullshit, yet all their cars fall to pieces. So I said the GTIs are reliable, and I'm sure the Golf R carries forward with some of that better build than the general Golfs had. But there's a bit of a mixed bag of answers here. These are the reasons I have not driven, and nor is there another car for me. The only other car for me over this is a Skyline GTR, Chantal, and a Porsche. And I've driven Porsches. Okay, the base Carrera from 6 years ago, mate, you get me in and straight out of that car. It's not for me, but I'm sure with $400,000 I'd be happy at Porsche, and that just says it all. Even if I had the 400 grand, I wouldn't spend it because it's just ridiculous. You could feed a small army, a small country on $400,000. So this isn't not a ultimate indulgence car, okay? They used to be 70-something thousand in Australia, and I believe the next model with options will climb to $70,000 because this car is something else, but it's not for everyone. Okay, it doesn't bottom out easily. Okay, it's got phenomenally good visibility. Subaru are all about passive safety, right? It's got the visibility. I mean, look at these mirrors, but you know, you're not going to have issues with blind spots, and you're not going to have a sore back, and you're not going to have any of that, right? But the STI is a different car to the others. It makes noises, it burbles, it does all sorts of unique things. It's rough, and of course it's also incredibly smooth. These are the contradictions of the car. But yeah, for that bloke, it was a very, very good question. No, I haven't driven anything else. And, you know, it's funny, I want to, but I don't. It's like there's nothing out there that'll do it for me. If Volkswagen tomorrow came out with a Boxer, which, you know, there's Porsche, but if Volkswagen came out with a Boxer four-wheel drive, I wouldn't even touch it. I mean, it's going to be a new thing for them. On the other hand, Porsche shares the Boxer magic. Subaru took it from them. Okay, so that's why I know a great Porsche will suit someone like me. And even before I knew these cars, people would go, well, it's either the STI or a Porsche. because of the drivability, because of the steering response. But in the generation I had before and in this one, the steering is really nice and responsive. Now, in relation to yesterday's video of it's a better car, it's a faster car, it's just everything better. There is, and I've mentioned to those who are very, they'll pick the ones who listen carefully. You know, sometimes they'll say, "Why do you contradict yourself?" So the ones who listen carefully will also know I've said the brake pedal's dead and the steering is dead off center. I'm still not used to this car. Okay, now, as in relation to throw a car around and get it just, it's the model before. It's the model before. Because you can't throw this car around. It's not as chuckable. And I wish I came up with that word yesterday. This car cannot be chucked around. It doesn't get chucked around. It feels like it weighs 400 kilos more than the other one, right? And with the dead feel off center, I'm finding that the car's not placing itself exactly where I want it to be. Now, at speed, driving and, you know, throwing the car around and keeping that far from the median strip, this is the pick. So again, it's a contradiction. Because when you're turning and you're going through an intersection and there's some horrible Sydney thing going on when you're turning, and you expect the car to just go and blast off, this car bogs down and sinks in. It's not chuckable. And that's going to be the payoff for the comfort. Okay, I'm not going to say I'm feeling more softness in the rear of this car yet. But there is something that's softer, and there's something that's gonna show itself to me. The only thing I have felt so far is that the back of the car has a softness in it that I really only felt in my car after doing 30,000 kilometers. So that yesterday was quite honest, what I said. They do have a softness in the rear, but I'm feeling it more in this one. I'm feeling more give in the rear. There's quite a few times already where I've gone, ooh, what's that? And the car's not exactly doing what I want it to. But again, I've been in another car for 2 years or more. Let's just see, give it a little bit more. I need to go down the national park. I need to run these tyres in a little bit more, even though, I mean, this profile is awesome. See, this is a tyre where you know you're not going to be rolling around on the road on. What are they called? Advan Sport. Advan. I mean, the tyre, look at it. Look at it. And as for those Michelin Cup 4s or whatever I had, they began to wear heavily on the car. So don't buy the Michelin Cup 4s. Buy them for the bargain, but, you know, either replace with the Dunlop. Whatever the factory put on is absolutely awesome. I mean, I haven't seen a tyre like this in a long time. It might not look like much, but it's square. The tyre is absolutely, you know, 86, 88 degrees there. So they've done something with this car. It's this morning I took a few turns and stuff, and I was a little bit disappointed as in it didn't keep the momentum up. I'll say it again, it feels like it's heavier. The steering has a dead spot just off center, and the brakes have a deadness about them, but they're there, they work. Yeah, so until I run it in and until I have a hard drive, I'm not going to know. But once you improve the power, and once the boost spikes quicker, and the car just gets that much more of what you wanted, usually what these cars are good at is coming to the party. You know, they know what we want, and the car comes to the party. So, as I said yesterday, you've got here a platform for a high-powered car. It's already high-powered, etc., etc. But, yeah, to those guys out there, congratulations for the ones that have bought them. For me, there's no other car. Am I biased to Subaru? Absolutely biased to Subaru. Absolutely biased. Subaru all the way. Because there's still no other car like this. And if there is for $60,000, prove it. I'm sure the Focus will be maybe the same price or less. Okay, and I'm sure a lot of you guys would be happy with the Focus. I'm going to start looking into the Focus. I'm not going to go into the reliability issues and they're blowing up diffs and all that. I mean, I had a leaking gearbox at 300 k's on the last one. But as in, why didn't I drive those cars and why don't I like them? Because I don't like their underpinnings whatsoever, at all. And this is going back for 20 years. Okay, Honda's been one of my favourites, but they're not performance cars, are they? Hondas are good at revving and sounding good and looking good, and they look good 20 years later, but please, Honda's been out of the game for a long time. So they can set their Nürburgring record for a front-wheel drive, and that's good for the front-wheel drive people. But for me, it's Subaru all the way. This is a fantastic car, so I'm beginning to reveal to you now, oh, there's deadness and this and that. I have said it before, but let's just see how it goes with the car and how I get used to it. But for now, yeah, this car is easier to drive, but it's even more truck-like. It's even more robust. It feels heavier, and for people like me, that's a good thing. I like cars that feel heavy, but not everyone will, so be careful. Make your informed decision. As I said, in Sydney, Chantal at Sutton Subaru Rosebery, mention me, get a discount. Von Bibra Subaru in Queensland, congratulations to Mio or whoever you are that bought one up there, that's great. But have a drive, take your time, okay? Drive the Focus, drive the Golf R. The Golf R, hands down, is the car to commute, to work in, to go out to dinner in with your partner, and to have a quiet, hopefully, not from what I see, but hopefully a reliable, quiet, refined ride, okay? In the last model, you couldn't have a conversation at 115 kilometers an hour on the phone in this car, nor could you command voice commands. So this is a lot quieter, but yeah, you don't want to be selling a car after 3 months. And on the other hand, I'm sure that there's many Audi and Volkswagen buyers that regret their purchase and then run back to Subaru for the real experience of a real old school car. Everything that we grew up loving and learning is in this car. And that's my fear, that the next model will lose it. It will become so refined that it will lose these inefficiencies and these crazy fuel consuming things, and you know, the roughness and the badly engineered, sort of engineered for fun, like engineered for fun and safety. Okay, these cars feel far safer than being in a Golf or a Focus, and I'm sure they out-crash the Golf and Focus. I'll make a bet that this car out-crashes the Golf and the Focus in a narrow offset collision, because they are at the top of the league. So you don't need to worry about safety by closing the door and thinking, oh, the Golf has a stronger door, and it's not about that. These cars are freaking safe cars, but the symmetrical four-wheel drive is where it's at. The center diff, and even in the WRX, the other two diffs and the gear ratios is where this car's at. I reckon, give me a WRX any day over even those other two. So hope that helps. Don't make any, rash decisions. And if you can't get your hands on an STI to drive the older one. Drive the 14 model. Drive the 14 model, and if you like that better than those other cars, just order one of these without driving it. And that'll be a nice surprise. Maybe just before Christmas. Anyway, good luck, guys. Thanks for your comments and responses. Yeah, I just didn't want anyone to make any impulsive decisions. As we know, you can look back to my videos of the awful infotainment saga. There's no Pandora, there's no Mirrorlink, there's no Starlink. Surely that's enough to turn some people away. Okay, so I do believe they will update it here, and we will get Android Auto possibly, or whatever it may be. But Subaru's got a little bit of answering to do for this, and I'm not onto them properly yet. But yeah, note that you can only Bluetooth in the 2018 Australia. You can only Bluetooth through there. And yeah, so anyway, enjoy and don't rush and drive them. But if you can't get your hands on one of these, drive an older one, and you'll see the formula. If you can't get your hands on a 14, drive a 2010. If you love the 2010 that much, a WRX in manual, if you think that's the best thing you've ever driven, just buy one because you're a Subaru person. Anyway, I hope that helps.